Welcome to another edition. Is that somber enough? Yeah. Of the Cat and the Mat. Yes. Welcome, everybody.
Yeah, hello. It's been extremely exciting with the market lately, and yeah, I think we totally predicted this, right?
Yeah, totally. It was something all of us just anticipated, so we could just hold on through all this lovely volatility and have wonderful times on X. Yeah.
Yeah, we forgot to tell you that we're perfectly hedged, and no, not really.
Yeah.
Not at all. But yeah, welcome. Well, you'll see that you got the S&P 500 chart here pulled up. You want to go ahead and rip a new one there for us?
Yeah, I just want to focus on some monthly developments and something that could be scary, right? It could be something that could be troublesome for the future, but the month is still 19 days, 21 hours left. But it is going below this lovely little conversion line right now. The last time it closed below it was a little fake out back in October of 2023, but that's basically like a year and a half. So closing below that now could lead to some more downside risk. And that is something that I would prefer to see close above. And I think Kat would agree to continue some of this bullish momentum to the upside. But if this does close back below that, then perhaps it's just going to take a while to maybe even retest maybe even the 1.272, the 523, or even lower before it gets closer to the cloud before something going higher. So it could be something like this, where it took many months, basically a year of down before going up. So we don't want something like that. So it would be best to maintain that momentum. Also with the QQQ, same situation, right? It's getting below its conversion line at the moment too. And the last time it was really below it was February 2023. And that has been basically 2 whole years since the last time it closed below. There was a scare back here in August. The whole carry trade scare, but it did close above. So perhaps this can have some nice boost to the upside at the end of the month to close back above levels as well. The thing with the QQQ, if we go to linear scale, it actually is kind of holding this 1.414 around the 472.65. So that is an area of interest as well to maintain kind of some support, and then perhaps later on this month go back above that 482.13. And lastly, the IWM. I like it the most actually because it already did kind of a big retrace, so there's not too much more downside risk in my opinion, right? This has the 50-month moving average, it has the baseline, it has this 50% 203 fib, and it's really close to 203. So this has also potential to recover by the end of the month and then continue stabilizing in that zone. So I think the biggest risk right now to the market could be the QQQ and the SPY, and everything IWM or growth related could, or crypto related, could actually be stabilizing as we speak. What say you, Kat?
Yeah, I think we're definitely at every single time we talk about or whenever we watch a show, it's like, oh, this is like the most important time ever. This is just like every single election is like the most important election. So this is
Yeah.
like the most critical point right here. If we don't break below, we're okay. If we break below, then we're screwed.
Yeah.
I can pull up my I did a little bit like a 4-minute video today. I mean, I can reiterate a little bit here
Yeah.
with I think you can look at this with a 2-week chart here. You want to flip over to me?
Yeah.
Maybe not. There you go.
There you go.
Good boy. Good boy.
Woo. Yeah.
Yeah. Safe word. Anyway, so this is the 2-week Ichimoku cloud. I actually find this to be a lot more meaningful when it comes to the Nasdaq. Because you have the conversion or the Tenkan here, you have the base or the kitchen here. And no, we've broken underneath the kitchen here. That's pretty scary. Last time, whenever we had the start of the 2022 bear market, we kind of broke down underneath of that, right? Doesn't mean that we're going to start a bear market. Doesn't mean that it's going to go down to the cloud or even break down underneath the cloud and try to break back up like it did over here, right? Doesn't mean that this is the start of something really, really scary. I guess it's not necessarily the case. The reason why I say that is usually for any normal market correction, I think SPY is down like 10%. I think the Nasdaq's down maybe like 14%, something like that. Still pretty normal correction stuff, not anything particularly scary. And all it takes sometimes is just a couple of candles to kind of get back above, and then you can just keep on going in merry way, right? Last time you really had a lot of trouble because you broke down underneath the baseline down here, and then after that you spent about 6 weeks doing like nothing. It just kept on going down. Like, this is a very, very vicious downtrend that has not just broken down underneath the Tenkan Kitchen. It caused a bearish cross over here, and we had a bearish back test, couldn't break through, and then down we go, right? But a lot of times you can break down underneath these things and like nothing happens. This is a little bit of anomaly. I think the 2020 was, 2021 pump is like a little bit of anomaly. But you can see, like, for example, there are these bull markets even before, well, I guess after you have the great financial crisis. You have these, bull markets that gets tired, came back, broke through the baseline, no big deal, right? Same thing here, broke through a baseline, no big deal. Didn't have to go back to the cloud here at all, right? Because you have such a bad, vicious downtrend here already. I'm not sure the same thing has to happen just like 3 years apart from what just happened, right? And even before that, you had these like bull market where things just kind of broke down underneath the baseline. It just kept on going. Like, it's not really anything too concerning. I think everybody's just kind of getting used to, money just or stock just keep on going up to the right whenever something like this happens. And because they remember what happened here in 2022, everybody just gets super scared. I mean, is there any reason to be concerned? Yeah, just like, what the great Mattsby said, you kind of breaking down underneath the Tenkan here. It didn't last bull market. You didn't really have that until it broke down, and the entire thing just plummeted from there. But the time before that, you can break down underneath the Tenkan here a little bit, and it's no big deal, right? Here you have a couple crashes over here, but overall history tells us it's okay to break down underneath the Tenkan. It's no big deal, right? But I think that once it's broken down it would be a lot nicer if we close back above. But there's some concerns here. There's some reason to be concerned about, and there's some reason to really try to watch the trend. I really like to see maybe over the next couple of weeks, or like 2 to 4 weeks or so, we have these like really nice reversal candles, and this is just kind of like a bit of a V shape over here, like kind of like what happened here back in July, August, and it just kind of went up from there. That'd be nice, right? Nothing's ever guaranteed. If it breaks down, then it's going down to the cloud, which is going to be around 16,000 for the Nasdaq, right? But does it have to happen? No. There are a lot of things actually pointing to like the fact that it probably won't be the case. But anyway, I mean, I can keep going on and on about like global liquidity and all that stuff. But anything to add, man?
Well, like if you go back to the COVID low of like the Ichimoku as well, like
Yeah.
it hit the cloud there. Do you think it's necessary to do that this time before we go higher?
Not necessarily. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that it's actually quite unusual for you to have 3 crashes over the last how many years? Like 7 years, 8 years. It's kind of a little bit unusual. It could, but I think right now we're at a juncture where I think the cycle is just a lot slower, right? I mean, we kind of talk again. I'm not talking about absolutes here. Nobody really knows exactly what's going to happen in the future, except for Great Mattsby. But
except with Tesla, because Tesla, it's name your own price. Name your own price.
I mean, like you also said that, yeah, like it's kind of, yeah, it goes to extremes, on the downside and upside. And I remember when prices underneath 200, we were like, yeah, 200 is going to be a strong resistance. It just got broke for like butter. I think it's going the other
but
way.
nobody complained then. Right? Nobody complained. Like nobody went on X like, oh, you assholes, you just told us that resistance was going to stay, and it broke. Nobody did that, but they do it on the downside all the time.
Yeah, they do on the downside all the time, but it's just human nature, unfortunately. I can talk a little bit about there are two things where I don't think it's going to end up being like bad. the first thing is really about like global liquidity. I really think that we're at the point in the cycle where this is like the scare before the pump. And I can be completely wrong about this. But currently, so far, like with yields just keep on plummeting day after day after day, and with US dollar actually dropping, I just can't help but to see this kind of pattern kept playing over and over again. You have global liquidity just kind of getting stuck. You push through back test. The entire time is going to show a lot of weakness, right? And whenever it pushes through, that's when you have a very strong, bull market that happens for about a year or two. Same thing happened here. You have global liquidity kind of plummeted, hitting resistance here, broke through back test that also happened to be around the COVID scare, right? And then that brought in a lot of global liquidity and just kind of kept going up, 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 up. Here we actually got a little bit of a resistance here, global liquidity. We broke back above and back tested it, but for some reason, I think we might have a little bit of like a delay in terms of feeling like the back test over here. But I think it might be still very similar juncture over here, and still very similar juncture over here, where you might experience some short-term volatility and some short-term weakness. Maybe to shake people out. I don't know. It's really tough for me to say for sure. Certainly, the big index like the Nasdaq and SPY certainly look weaker, But I just have a hard time really seeing global equity kind of taking up like that, looking very similar to what's going to happen here and here, and think that it's just going to end up being a bear market like it is in 2022. That's reason number one. The other reason is really has nothing to do with render.
Are you sure? Is render that's our only problem in the market is render?
It's render is not going up. No, that has nothing to do with render. Maybe it does. I don't know. But the only thing is, I just have a hard time seeing the U.S. market doing horribly if the Chinese market's going to go up. Like I'm gonna have to trace back the entire 15 years or so to tell me where the Chinese market does extremely well, and then the U.S. market goes down. Like I'm still having a hard time really seeing that. I have a hard time seeing the Chinese market does really well, and then the U.S. market goes down, right? I mean, I just have a hard time seeing that. Do you see anywhere in history, just looking at this, where China does really well and the U.S. does poorly? Like, do you see any time in history? I'm going to keep going because it's fun,
No, keep going. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you see any time where Chinese market is doing really well and the U.S. market does poorly? Right.
No, but you see the opposite, that the U.S. market does well and the Chinese market goes down. Yeah.
Yeah. The opposite can happen. That's the thing. Like that's why I'm just kind of looking at this. I'm like, okay. So are we at the juncture where the Chinese market is going to do really well? And the U.S. market is just going to, and the Chinese market is just forming higher highs and higher lows. The U.S. market is just going to plummet. I just don't know. Like I can see the Chinese market doing poorly, and U.S. market still holds up okay. Chinese market can do very poorly, and U.S. market still does okay, right? Chinese market can do very poorly, and U.S. market still does okay, right? So I don't know. Like it would be quite an anomaly if there's like Chinese dominant. I don't think maybe things are shifting. Maybe they're actually able to like finance their debt with like the money I have no idea. I have no idea what they're going to do, but I just have a hard time ignoring that it's forming higher highs and higher lows. Maybe this is a little bit of exhaustion. Maybe Chinese is going to plummet from here. I don't know, but higher highs, higher lows. Looks like there's a lot of liquidity being pumped in the system. I just have a hard time seeing the U.S. market do poorly. Those are my two reasons. Beyond that, if you have to like stick a technical analysis and just be like completely objective, I gotta say, like I'm gonna just follow the 2-week Ichimoku. That's one way to look at it. If it breaks down, it doesn't have any impulse on the way up, and it just keep on going down for like 4 to 6 weeks, and then it has an impulse. By then, it's going to be a lot of resistance here, and I'll be worried about it going back to cloud or maybe even further down, right? But if it doesn't, then that's fine. If it ends up being one of these like flash crashes, who cares? Just don't look at your portfolio for like 4 weeks. Just don't worry about it, right? I mean, this is what you get if you end up over leveraging, with like CoinL and Tesla, TSLA. You're going to end up losing a lot of money if this does happen. and nobody can guarantee that. That's why I don't hold like all coin out. I think I only have maybe like 3 to 1 Coinbase to coin out, because you never know. When these things happen, it could just be completely plummeting. It could really be really bad, right? Same thing here. It can just end up breaking down and just go into the cloud. Next thing you know, within like a month or two, you're fine, right? If that happens, then so be it. But I don't know. Like usually, if you're talking about a big, long, prolonged, painful bear market, it at least would retrace back to the mean back test and it just end up plummeting down further, right? That's generally what I tend to see. Same thing if you look at like, this is a 2-week chart, right? So you're talking about like the 40-week moving average. You break down underneath of that, touch the low Bollinger Band, back test of 40 here. That's when things go down a lot lower if you're not able to hold, right? A lot of times you have these kind of impulse where you just kind of shoot down to the low Bollinger Band, to the upper Bollinger Band, back test 20, just ran, right? Now we're kind of broken down underneath of there, which does open a possibility for it to go down lower if it's not one of those trickster kind of thing, right? You can have these kind of like trickster kind of thing where it never really touched the low Bollinger Band. You have these trickster kind of thing where you never really touched the low Bollinger Band. You're just kind of hovering around here before going up higher. But that's why I think people are like, kind of scared, because there's to hit the low Bollinger Band. Nobody really knows. But if you want to stay objective, if next week we just end up having some shenanigans where just kind of going back up and have like a V-shape kind of thing, then never mind, right? This was really a systematic sell-off. This is really a very systematic sell-off where was touching resistance, decided to go down, touching resistance again, and it's decelerated, right? Whenever Michael Berry said sell or whatever, whenever Jamie Dimon said, economic hurricane is coming, the bear trend is already exhausted, So I don't know. I mean, all I can say is right now, watch and see. I don't really necessarily see this having to happen. But yeah, there are things that we can watch on the chart and see. That's all I can really say right now. So
yeah, there's a question about, can you talk a bit about the global M2 and Bitcoin as well?
Can you? Okay, fine. I'm the male to talk about it, I guess.
I mean, you are the global liquidity king. You are the one providing the liquidity to all markets anyway, so.
I don't know what you're talking about, man. All right.
Without Cat, we would have nothing else.
I don't have anything to talk about. We're done. No, actually, I'm going to pull out the global liquidity index here. The monthly of the M2 global liquidity index is not as pretty because it's just a lot, grainier, if you will. It's kind of like CT scan. I like MRIs better, but anyway. If you're basically just looking at market symmetry, right? Really, ever since 2011, 2012 or so, it's just been going arc after arc after arc after arc, right? And that generally has to do with the relations of what global liquidity does, because as we kind of come to realization, really after like 2013, 2014, whenever Bitcoin is actually becoming a thing, it started following global liquidity in a very, very interesting way. It almost feels like, who knows, maybe somebody in China is trying to exit their market and trying to rotate their money out of China into something that's easily, transferable. Who knows, right?
XRP.
But, yeah, like maybe XRP. I don't know. But
you can't be talking about Bitcoin.
Sorry, we were talking about global liquidity and XRP, but I don't know. I mean, I think XRP. Anyway, that's a different story, a different time. But you can basically see the entire bear market over here is basically when global liquidity was kind of hitting a snag. Is hitting resistance, and wherever it goes through, break through, back test that area is when you really are trying to get to the area where you're breaking the arc over here and you back testing the arc, right? That's kind of what happens. And once you push through the arc over here, you generally take a break over here for a few months, and then it tends to go up to the next arc, right? And when it gets to the next arc, usually global liquidity is hitting a peak, and usually you're going to end up hitting resistance, and then that's when you get rejected from the arc, getting underneath the arc over here. During this period of time where it's trying to push through and backtest the global liquidity here, it pushed through the arc and kind of backtest the arc, right? And then once you find the solid ground over here, you just end up going up a lot higher and have the next leg up going to the next arc, right? Same thing I think is happening, except that this time, instead of like the usual like a year and a half to 2 year resistance here, we've gone through like 2.5 years of resistance and like the third year of backtest. So I think the cycle is just a lot slower for some reason. And during this entire time when you're hitting resistance, it was underneath this arc over here. When it was pushing through resistance and backtesting the global liquidity, it was also doing the same thing here with the arc, right? And it had a little bit of a tick off here. It was spending a few months kind of going sideways, kind of like it did over here after it broke the arc, kind of like it did over here after it broke the arc, right? And it's getting a lot of people really extremely frustrated right now. Where do you think it's going to go if global liquidity increases? Probably up. Even if I don't look at global liquidity, if you just look at the market symmetry, like where do you think it's going to go next? Well, it could go back down here. That's one option, right? Or it could go up here to the horizontal line, or it can go up here to the arc after that. That's kind of what I'm seeing, and that really does line up with like the whole global liquidity cycle. And I cannot ignore the backtest and the uptick of the global M2 money supply, and also China is printing. You can see that with their stock market. So I think eventually you're going to have having some rotation back in the U.S. at some point. The large caps are weak though, Mattsby. What's going on with that?
Yeah, the large caps. I just did my Patreon review, and like all of them, Microsoft is probably the weakest, and yeah, Google, Amazon, even Apple broke down this week. Meta, it's looking like they want to be weaker before they want to be stronger.
Yeah. So what do you think is going to happen, man?
I think it smells like a rotation. Really, that's what it
Yeah.
smells like. Like they had multi-year rallies.
Yeah.
And now it's time for everything else to have maybe a 2-month rally. You know?
You or maybe like a 3-month rally, like
Yeah,
1,
maybe
2,
like a
3.
3-month. Yeah.
Like something like that, or 4 months. Give it 4 months, right?
Yeah.
Maybe
All
late
right.
March all the way to June or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, at least that. Come on now. Like they had a whole couple years, like NVIDIA and all this other stuff. They had a few years of growth. So just give everything else at least a few months. God.
Yeah. What if NVIDIA says no? I'm just gonna bring everything down. What would you say to that?
I don't think that's going to happen because NVIDIA, QQQ, SPY on a month-to-month basis, they're still very
Yeah.
extended. So they have room to go, but everything else is not. So you can't really justify everything crashing at once. I just think it's more logical to have a rotation than to just have
Interesting.
everything crash at once.
Interesting thesis. So you mean you can have something that's absolutely crazy where people can't imagine happening, where NVIDIA can just kind of go sideways for months like this?
Yeah, and that's
And
never happened before. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
and the IWM can like just end up like just plummeting down and getting everybody frustrated here in like September 2020. Everybody's saying, "Oh, IWM sucks," and then next thing you know, it does that when NVIDIA just kept on doing this. You mean that's possible?
Yeah, I mean, this
Yeah.
is March of 2025, and 5 years later, exactly the same thing could be happening.
Yeah.
You know, not only
Except a lot
that,
slower, but
what's
yeah.
that?
Except a lot slower, but yeah.
Oh, a lot slower. Yeah,
Yeah.
and also March 9th of 2009 was the bottom of the financial crisis too. So I mean, March is a very bottomy kind of a month. It really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, you can say that again. So you do believe in seasonality. You like obey.
No, no, no. It's just a coincidence. Yeah.
Just like- but yeah, I'm just so you're saying that Nvidia can continue to show weakness and frustrate people for like almost a whole year when IWM does that. You really think that's
Yeah.
possible?
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't even know if NVIDIA has to crash really, or anything else has to crash. I just think maybe yeah, it could just stay range bound for many, many months, many, many months, and the
Yeah.
QQQ could too. Nothing really has to crash, just sideways to a little bit of down.
Yeah, like or Nvidia, like you mean like you can go sideways over it for a while and when IWM just does that? Is that possible?
No,
I mean,
I've
I
never
yeah,
never seen that before.
I've
Even though
never
you just
seen.
showed me a previous example, this is the first time I'm seeing that. Yeah.
Oh, oh, okay. All right. I'm just, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Like, I think that usually, and I think it's important to talk about IWM too, because Nvidia and like these large cap stocks, they start running up a lot even during like the early. I'm gonna pull up the M2 Global Liquidity Index here. Like Nvidia, they run even during like this phase of global liquidity, but IWM just doesn't. Like it's waiting for that big giant pump up, right? We simply haven't really had that happening yet. We just kind of broke through and back tested. We're just getting gear started here, So yeah, maybe more rotation is kind of what I'm thinking. But with that said, I have a hard time really. I do agree. I have a hard time seeing that the stock market, the small cap's going to actually do extremely well if the Nasdaq is like in a bear market. I have a hard time seeing that. What do you say to that?
You say the stock market is going to have a hard time doing really well if the Nasdaq's in a bear market?
Well, the small cap stuff's going to have a hard time going
Oh, the
up
small
crazy if the Nasdaq's in a bear market. I kind of have a hard time seeing that. What do you say?
Well, yeah, it would have to more so go sideways than down, I would say. Yeah.
So we're hoping for maybe something like this, that would allow the small caps to run, but yeah, I don't know. Hopefully, maybe we're experiencing a little bit of weakness over here, like we did over here. Who knows? Yeah, who knows? But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts. I already talked too much, so I missed Tracker.
Yeah. You missed Tracker.
Yeah,
yeah. We have no third person to take a break from. It's just you and me, banter. Yeah.
and like I don't know. I think we see very, very similar things for the most part. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to go back to Bitcoin really on my screen, and I'm going to use your 2-week chart to show people things. And yeah, it's a beautiful 2-week chart, and I know you've been watching this too. That baseline has been a beautiful support, and it even like wicked below last night, and it held right. That's 79,467. I think that's the same exact number on the monthly conversion line too. The same exact number. So that's a very important number, the 79,467. But not only that, if I pull up this channel here, and let me go right here, pull up this channel for you guys. I want to show you what I see. And you know what it's doing? It's also backtesting that channel where it was a previous resistance back here in 2019. Right, it broke down and then it came back down. Then it cut through exactly that point and never really recovered. Not even really in February or March. It didn't really recover too much because it went back down to test the bottom channel there. But now it is. But now it has potential to actually be flipping this channel right here from a resistance finally to a support. So there is a lot of confluence of support finally at that $79,000-$80,000 zone. So if that does hold, then where does price lead us? Well, I think we talked about this before. Usually this top channel ends the cycle, right? It ends the cycle. So if it goes to the cycle, what are we talking about? Maybe 230, right? Maybe 280, maybe even to super cycle and goes to the blue above in the 400s. Who knows? Right. But I think at least it's going to go back to this top channel here and end the cycle. That's what I think. And that's going to be anywhere in the 200s to maybe even 300s, depending on time. So, yeah, I don't really see things ending right now, even though the QQQ, the SPY, NVIDIA, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, they all look scary, right? Even Tesla, I guess, looks scary now too. But with Bitcoin and altcoins actually still performing very nicely, right? Let me just put this back on here and go to the others chart. And the others chart is just a thing of beauty, in my opinion, really, right? The 2-week chart, it's at the very bottom of the 2-week cloud right now. It did wick below last night, but it's holding, right? Even if you go to the weekly cloud right there, it's starting to go a little bit below the weekly cloud. But then we go to the monthly chart here. The 2-week and the monthly are really, really nice. It's still inside the monthly cloud, and the higher the time frame, the more valid the support, I would say, right? And this monthly cloud, it actually looks like it is maintaining levels. And if you go put on the moving average as well, that is the 50-month moving average that is holding perfectly, right? Which is something that is a beautiful thing. And look at last time. This is COVID, right? March 20, huge wick down. It did close a little bit below the 50, but that was Launchpad, right? That was the Launchpad. And we saw something similar where it spent some time below, just like right here. It spent more time below, and then it came up and back tested. Then it came up and back tested, and then it came up higher. It came up higher, and then it finally back tested in March all the way down to shake everybody out. and then it launched, and now it's back testing again, finally going a little bit below, not as deep as COVID, just to finally shake people out and go. Right? It's basically almost the exact same pattern that we saw from 2018 to 2020, just a little bit extended. Right? That's all I see right there with this pattern. So I can't be bearish on crypto. I can't be bearish on Bitcoin at all. But the only thing I can be bearish on is the Magnificent Six, maybe even 7 if you count Tesla, because that's been pretty down. But but I think Tesla looks like it's trying to bottom finally. But I know I've been saying that for a long time, so just ignore what I say because it likes to cut through levels easily. So, but this is an obvious pattern here. I don't know if you see the same thing, Cap, but I see this is playing out exactly the same, just extended.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's going to be a very, very odd cycle if Bitcoin makes all-time high and altcoins doesn't. That's just going to be like a very extremely odd thing. Maybe we just don't have the liquidity coming in like we did the last couple of cycles. I guess I can accept that, but that's kind of what I'm seeing. I think that the Chinese market pump also may have something to say about what altcoins will do. And I think maybe this is just a little bit of a pullback here to get everybody all sad and whiny before we make our big game up. So what do you think?
Yeah, it's really a tough one because there's so many indicators that are scary right now, but at the same time, there's other indicators that are showing stability at the same time. So it's like, which one do we use? What's going on here? I don't know. Like, this is a very difficult time. It was also a very difficult time if you were trading in March of 2020 because things were losing levels like crazy. They were just cutting through levels like crazy. And I know I wasn't on X really back then at all, actually, in Twitter. But this was something that was super scary. And I remember it a lot. And I was like, you know what? I'm not sure if it's going to hold. And I doubted myself all the time. And that's what I'm kind of doing right now, too, doubting myself here with these levels, especially when we go to a chart like Tesla here. Nope, not that one. Yeah, a chart like Tesla here. Yeah, I'm like been like, okay, this levels are good, but then it starts closing 1 week below levels and another week below levels and another, then another. It's like it cannot stop closing weeks below levels, and I'm like, that trend has to stop. I mean, finally it got back down to the 382 right there, which is a huge retrace. So I mean, I think that has really good potential of holding and actually closing above now. So if it starts to finally close above levels, for a few weeks in a row, then I think we'll find some stability there and go higher. But it's just reminded me a lot of like 2020. And if we go back to, this is linear scale, let's go to log scale. It doesn't even matter anymore, like linear scale. You can't even see it. But yeah, like in linear scale too, I remember this, like it cut through this level. I'm like, oh God, is it going to just keep going? And I thought actually back then it was probably going to go all the way down to like the 19s or, well, it wasn't that price because it was pre-split, right? Whatever the price was at that time. But I thought it was going to go down to like a lot lower, right? Maybe even, where's my thing? At this point here, it could have been even another 20% or 25% lower. I thought that had a potential to do that, but then it was a quick turnaround and went higher. So it was scary times then, and it's scary times now for a lot of things because it's just very, very orchestrated. It's a very, very severe sell-off for a lot of things. And I think they're doing it intentionally, so nobody has a clue what's really to expect. But there are hints out there, and the hints are coming from the crypto market, I think, especially how the altcoins are holding support while Bitcoin is going lower. Like a lot of them are, I mean, some of them broke to lower lows, but the majority of the market is holding support. So, and one of those examples is Ethereum. They are making lower lows too from a little bit earlier. But I think what's really happening is it's supposed to throw you off your game because everybody looks at a lot of the same moving averages. Everybody looks at RSI. Everybody looks at the MACD or whatever. And if you just tank the market for 4 or 5 straight weeks in a row, then that just throws everybody off and throws everybody bearish. And it's an easy time to just reverse. So I think it's just intentional to shake people out, just like it was during COVID, just like it was and many times before. Right, even with the carry trade, but it wasn't that extreme because it was basically only 1 week. So with that
Yeah.
said,
Yeah, I mean, I think Tesla, all it does is it just looks like it's going to roll over, and then it doesn't. That's what it does. That's what the stock does. So
yeah,
it looks like it's just going to roll over to zero, and the next thing you know, it just doesn't do that.
yeah.
Yeah, takes you to the extreme. I have three different charts here I want to show you to reiterate the point. Actually, actually, I guess four, but
Well, one thing I wanted to show before I jump to you is just if you invert this right here, doesn't this look actually like it's going to reverse? I think
yeah,
because it's right back basically at a major. If you inverse it, this would be a major like supply zone, right? Right up here. So would you want to buy something like this, Cat?
interesting. You said that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna see if I can pull up another chart here to show. Interesting, you said that.
All
But
right, go
anyway,
ahead.
yeah, we'll
Yeah.
get to that. Yeah, so this is the I'm gonna turn off the Ichimoku cloud. Here's a linear chart for Tesla Q, which is a 2x short Tesla daily ETF, and this is a weekly chart here. I'm gonna draw these crazy lines here, because that's what technical analysis is all about, just drawing these magic lines, and
The more the better.
the more lines the better. Sometimes it can confuse you, so the more lines you get, they're more likely going to be right. But if I don't use any other lines, just use this line over here. It broke down underneath this line, and it's doing a bearish back test right here. So this is a good time to like short Tesla. Probably not. A couple other charts here too. I thought was pretty interesting. One is there are a few spread charts I was kind of showing on X, and it's also showing Mattsby as well. Is this weekly chart for like NVIDIA over Tesla spread, right? This is not looking very hot for NVIDIA over Tesla, does it? I mean, it just looks like it's broke down underneath this horizontal level and broke down underneath the cloud at the same time. And right now, it's just having a bearish back test here of the cloud and of the baseline over here on the weekly, right? Doesn't look very hot. It looks a little bit tired. Looks like it wants to go down further because it's just forming lower high after forming a lower low. So I do wonder when I see something like that over the last few weeks, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna just maybe start divesting away from my semiconductor exposure and then get more into Tesla. Even the Tesla has been like plummeting down to like from like the low 300s to like the low 200s as I was rotating. But I just see something like that. I was just like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I want to. I might want to rotate into other things. I think I'm not the only cat that's thinking that, and the market is basically thinking the same thing. So that's one chart I want to show. The other chart I want to show, I think is going to be pretty interesting for you, Mattsby. This is NVIDIA over IWM. What do you think about this chart?
Yeah, it looks like it could be breaking down, maybe.
It looks like it wants to break down underneath the cloud.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. So you're saying that NVIDIA
Yeah.
is going to outperform the IWM?
No, I don't know.
What
It could,
what about another possibility here where it broke above and then it just has to back test the cloud before going up higher?
but
I don't
it
know.
lost the conversion and baseline, so
It
it could
did.
take a while. It could would
It
take a
did.
while for that.
It could
Yeah.
oscillate here a little bit while, but the clouds looks pretty thick. I wonder whether or not this is going to be support. And this is
Yeah.
like the consolidation where there's going to be some. Yeah, it could break down. It could break down. Hard to say, but I just think that it's hitting some pretty critical structure here, and there's a potential where Nvidia might end up rotating into IWM. We are getting close to cloud here after being so far extended above. Whenever I see something like that, it's usually this might be a signal where the cycle might be over. It's possible. Yeah. So if that's the case, then NVIDIA might rotate to IWM, and IWM is probably just going to outperform NVIDIA moving forward. If it ends up like breaking down the cloud backtest and go down lower, which I can totally see like something like this happen, right? Breaking down the cloud backtest and just go lower. All it has to do is just for a few months or like, for like 6 months. And next thing you know, IWM is just going to shooting up like crazy. One last thing I want to show is NVIDIA over Bitcoin on a weekly. What do you think? What do you think?
It's stuck under the conversion line, but it has
Yeah,
potential.
but this is a little bit of a lower low compared to there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this looks kind of exhausted, right? It broke down underneath the cloud here, even though it's been trying to hold the cloud here, but it looks like it's just kind of convincingly broken underneath the cloud over here,
Yeah.
So it does make me wonder whether or not Bitcoin's going to end up, just kind of outperforming NVIDIA moving forward.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
that's a very good possibility. Yeah.
Yeah. This thing just looks a little bit exhausted. Anyway, I just kind of want to show those kinds of things to maybe support a little bit of the rotationary thesis, but who knows? Who the heck knows? Yeah. Anything
Yeah. I
else you
mean,
want to talk about? Yeah, go for it.
no, I think like anything is really possible in this market, but yeah, just the first 11 days of March. I mean, geez, this has been throwing a lot of people off, right? A lot of people off, and that makes a lot of people angry. But I think we just got to wait and see how the month closes, right? A lot of people, they give up too soon and just to watch things reverse, and then they FOMO later. So I think to avoid that FOMO or that fear, just be patient. I think that's really the thing to do. Sometimes the best thing to do is nothing at all, right? Just to watch and see what happens, what plays out, and to always have some cash ready just in case, right? And going on margin is very, very dangerous in these times because you can quickly get liquidated. That's for sure.
Yeah, I don't have any margin because I'm a very low risk cat. I only get into like point L and all that crap.
Yeah, only the double X. I mean, I would 3X if there were options. Believe you me, right?
In my T triple Q, maybe I should divest my T triple Q. I don't know. But anyway,
Yeah.
this is ARK, right? This is ARK Fund. The trashiest stock. You talk about Jerry Springer stocks here, where wherever it gets hot, whenever things start to get warm, and they bring these like whatever strippers and coming in, and everybody just can't get enough of Jerry Springer. And next thing you know, it's like, oh, this is trash. Well, Jerry Springer is making a comeback. Jerry Springer is hitting some resistance here almost perfectly at the monthly Ichimoku cloud. And it's already had a pretty big run since December 2022, very quietly. I think it's going to end up beating Oprah again. I think it's just a matter of time. But it's hitting some resistance here, so they come back and backtest some stuff. And it did overshoot the conversion base here, but it's still holding magically the 20-month moving average here pretty perfectly, kind of like how it's been doing it for the entire year. So yeah, I don't think that this is that bearish if ARK Fund is able to do something like this. So I don't know. Like even if you look at a higher time frame, I guess like SPY and QQQ, they're not really hitting the 20 yet either. And sometimes when you hit the 20, that could be actually a pretty bad thing. Like here, they hit the 20 and they're just bouncing up like no problem, right? Here, broke down any of the 20 here, pushing up here. Here, it just kind of goes sideways over here. So it visited the 20 here a couple times, even touched the low Bollinger Band here by just going sideways. And then the next thing, you just kind of go up, right? So hitting a 20 is not a bad thing usually if you're able to find that as support, right? We have like can SPY or QQQ go down further? Yeah, it can, but it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to touch the 20-month moving average for a very long time. So, but if you're talking about ARK Fund is doing something like this, that does make me wonder whether or not there's some rotation stuff going on from people watching Oprah, maybe wanted to kind of mix in a little bit Jerry Springer to it. So, yeah.
You're dating yourself with that Jerry Springer, aren't you?
I don't know. I already like I was looking at Ethereum at like 1943. I was like, hey, I used to play a video game called 1943. I made a post about that. So I already, it's like I can't believe I was playing as an Axis power, trying to fight against allies. That was like that was kind of messed up when I think about it. Anyway, that's that's a different story for a different time.
Oh yes.
Yeah. What else do you want to talk about? You want to talk about Tesla, don't you? Like, or a little bit more, maybe? Or what do you
Yeah,
think
we
is going
could.
to happen? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think I covered what I wanted to talk about really, but
Okay.
is there one other thing? Yeah, let me just pull this up.
Yeah. We're not very organized today. Tracker is usually like the organizer. He's the one that usually keeps us in line. So yeah, he's not here, so we're not very organized.
No, essentially, yeah, I think I just covered what I
Okay.
essentially with Tesla, I just want to start to see stability because it needs to
Yeah.
stop closing below levels. And once it stops doing that, then I think it's going to find a base there and finally get out of there. But all these weekly candles, they were destruction after destruction. So
Yeah. I don't know what to make of Tesla. Like Tesla looks like it wants to mimic like this lame duck bull market now. but
yeah,
but I don't know, like, whether or not that's the case, because the Tesla's very good at like tricking people. And I would say there are like two really really hard stocks to chart. One is Tesla, but Tesla's not that hard. The other one's really miners. Yeah,
oh
I,
yeah,
yeah, I cannot for the life of me, like, just do that. But essentially, I just show you the Tesla Q chart. I mean, I don't have a whole lot to say, with the exception that, as crazy as it sounds, this is still a higher low compared to all these lows over here. That's really like all I can really say, because all the other averages and things like that are not really working out that well. And as far as I can tell, it kind of hit the 0.382 log fib over here. It looks like it's finding support at a horizontal zone here. That was pretty decently respected previously. That's all I can really say about Tesla. If you
yeah.
look at the volume has been pretty decent. So somebody's been cranking up the sell here, and I don't know. I think it's getting really close, if not already there. But who knows? We've been kind of saying that for a long time. So
I was kind of expecting it to touch the bottom of the monthly cloud, like
yeah,
at 213, but it
it got close.
did it in after hours or overnight, but it did
Yeah.
not do it during the day.
I mean, I think there are two
So
things. One thing is it did finally hit the low ball in Japan, which to me usually that serves as a little bit of a decelerator. I mean, granted, if it's like a true bear market, it can bounce off the low ball in Japan to the other side, right? But
yeah,
generally, on like a bull market, it can sometimes make higher lows right into a low ball in Japan. I just kind of showed you earlier on like the indexes. So that's a decelerator. The other decelerator is really truly like the monthly cloud. I think that's really a big decelerator over here. It looks like it didn't really quite touch the bottom of the cloud. Kind of got kind of hitting 0.382, kind of getting some support there, and it just probably wants slowly emerging back above water here to the cloud. That's kind of what I'm thinking it's going to do. But
yeah,
during the entire downtrend over here, as vicious as it looks like, I mean, granted, the March volume is you can still have another like 2.5 trading weeks, but so far the February sell volume is really not that impressive. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah,
true.
it's kind of crazy. Anything else you want to talk about? Palantir? Let's talk about it.
Yeah, yeah, I can see Palantir still trying to test a little bit lower.
Yeah, it's showing some weakness short term. There's no doubt. I mean, everybody, like including Jake, was talking about this being a shooting star candle. So this must have been the top, right? We must plummet all the way back down here, and there's also certainly that possibility. I'm not going to rule that out, but right now it's just hard for me to envision that without it battling a lot of these kind of support levels down here below, like the conversion to baseline over here. It got pretty close to it early in the month, but we didn't really quite touch it. I still think that it could go back and touch that, because sometimes you need to kind of touch it before you can go higher, right? Can it go down further, even to the 60s? Sure, it can. That would be a pretty vicious, like 50% correction after it's gone a few 100%, like 1,000, like two, like what is it, 2,000% or something like that. Can it go
Yeah.
down like 50% and backtest some things down here, even to the baseline over here? I think it's possible. Doesn't mean that the bull market is over, not necessarily, but I like to see it holding over here, if at all possible, because I basically can see how it might be very similar to MicroStrategy, where it made a big move up like that, and it just kind of goes sideways over here for months above the Tenkin in the kitchen, above the conversion base. I can kind of see it happening. It can whipsaw over here for a little while before the next lick up, when everybody's like disinterested in it already. But honestly, if I think global liquidity is coming, if IWM is going to move, and if altcoins is going to go up, I have a hard time seeing Palantir not continuing. The Bollinger Band still looks pretty decent, to be honest with you, on the monthly. It is kind of curling inside here a little bit. but it's not like reversing, right? Like there's no proof that this is going to be the peak of the low Bollinger Band, and it's simply just kind of crawling in because we've been going sideways here for a while. So, and also on top of that, it's still, for some miracle, it's still holding the 1.272 log fib here. So doesn't mean it's not going to go down lower, but it's just for some reason it's still holding that level here. So when pretty much everybody thinks that it's going to go down lower, I see a lot of charts saying, oh, it might even pump up a little bit and go down lower, which I think is possible. It can go down to the 60s. I don't know. What say you, man?
I want to show you the daily chart that I've been looking at, and it looks like tomorrow is going to open up below the daily cloud for the first time in a while. So I think it's going to be daily weakness, and I think the linear fib is going to be the target. The 1.618, 69.15. And it did it before, where it went underneath there and it climbed up the cloud out of there. But this time there is no cloud support for the daily chart. But it doesn't really stray too far from the cloud when you go back in time and history. Let's go to log scale just so we can see it better. But yeah, it spent a lot of time down there before, just in a range. But granted, that was the 618 fib back then. And it did the same thing here, but that was also the 50% fib. So what's the trend? Breaks below the cloud, hangs around the next fib below. So the trend, if you go to linear scale, I don't think it's going to go back to 45. So I think the trend is maybe it's going to hang around the 69.15 below, right, for a little bit, and then probably try to make its way back higher. So I think the downtrend is not done just yet, and I think this log base 7813 maybe won't be holding, because it actually has started to close 2 consecutive days in a row below it. So that trend could continue for a little bit more down before up. So that's what I think for Palantir. But either way, I don't think it even matters if you're looking for the long-term trend, because the long term, it's still looks very, very bullish. And I think it's at least going to get to the 1.618 up here. That's usually a good target for a lot of exponential growers from the bottom from the previous cycle. So I think that'll be the minimum target for me, where I might start to take some sort of profits. But I think, it's just going to be time, right? Maybe if the Qs go down, if NVIDIA goes down or sideways, this will probably just do the same thing for a little bit before going higher.
Yeah, what do you think about all those gaps below, though, like all the way down to like $8 or whatever?
Yeah, screw those gaps, right? Screw those. Oh, speaking of gaps, though, did you see this gap on Tesla? Did you see it? 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 Do you see it? Huh? Look at
filled.
it. It got filled.
Yeah, the island gap got filled. Yeah.
And it didn't get filled yesterday. It got filled today, right?
Yeah.
It got it. So that early sell off when price opened around like 230, and then it was like trying to go bullish, and then it just tanked to 217. That's what it was. It was filling that gap exactly today. So that was interesting for Tesla. I forgot that I was going to share that, but that Palantir question of the gaps just reminded me. So yeah, for all you gap fillers out there, Tesla just closed this gap right here back in November and this gap here back in October. So 2 full gaps closed basically within a couple week period. So you guys should be happy about that. So could be a bottoming sign, right, for Tesla right them there.
Yeah, love them gap close, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't always have to close, but I think whenever they want to grab liquidity by having such a vicious downtrend, they tend to do that. Congratulations, gap closers.
Yeah, gap closers use. But yeah, I think so. Where does that leave us, Kat? Are we bullish? Are we neutral? Are we bearish? What's good? What's the deal here?
If you're looking at the higher time frame, how should I put this? I think Bitcoin tell like there are a few stories, right? Story number one is Bitcoin's forming higher highs and higher lows, and Bitcoin's looking like it's just stepwisely going up systematically, kind of like how it does before its like big breakout. There's really nothing too unusual about the cycle. And if you look at global liquidity, kind of doing what it's doing, you look at China starting to kind of pump, like everything kind of is lining up that it should carry through an overall strong market moving forward. But the whole last like 3 or 4 weeks is just throwing the whole thesis into question, because the large cap and the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq everybody's looking at is showing a lot of weakness, right? Like it just went down, like Nasdaq just went down 14% in just 3 or 4 weeks. S&P 500 went down 10% in just like 3 weeks, right? So a lot of people think that's unusual, but the reality is that there's nothing really unusual about that correction if you're able to have a strong impulse to get out of there. If we don't have a strong impulse to get out of there, then we might be in trouble, because by then, if we just kind of end up showing continued weakness here for like a couple months or whatever, a lot of technicals are going to get more and more bearish, and that you are at you're at a higher risk to develop like an actual bear market.
Yeah.
So
I was telling my Patreon people that too. Basically, if we don't start to see strength and just more weakness, then we gotta actually prepare for more downside, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's imperative, I think, that we finish this month off strong. That's what I think.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, you guys are so bullish for so long, and now you're starting to be like cautious. Like, when weren't you talking about cautious like, a few weeks ago? Well, I mean, I'm still sitting on a lot of unrealized gains right now from buying a lot of things in like 2022, 2023, even 2024. Sometimes, you have to kind of maintain bullish until something breaks down, and usually when something breaks down, you're usually going to get a little bit of a bearish backtest where you can actually exit out, before.
Well, that's
Yeah.
what we did with NVIDIA, right? We started to see
Yeah.
weakness with NVIDIA finally after
Yeah.
all these months, and then we sold out. We took profits finally after years, right? And that is something that is what you try to do for every cycle, or at least we try to do. Like, because I don't really like to go in and out too much, because trying to time the market short term really doesn't work in your favor too much. Yeah.
Yeah. And I also think another thing that makes me question about the whole bear market thesis is really the fintechs. So I can show a few fintech charts here to kind of get things into a little bit more perspective.
Yeah.
Um,
Let's switch you over. Actually, first, let me answer the question. There's another gap for Tesla at 144. Yeah, there's a gap right there. You want to see all the gaps that were remained unfilled? Let's just go back in time, guys. Okay, there's this gap right here at 76. Okay, there's this gap right here at 43. What about this one right here, guys? At 17, and maybe this one right here too at 13. Let's keep going back in time here. Do we have any more gaps? I don't know.
well,
Right here we have one at $8. So,
Wilt Chamberlain slept with a lot of women and felt a lot of gaps, but he's not able to sleep with all women and fill all gaps, right?
That is true.
Some women just don't have sex with Wilt Chamberlain. Like, just because a lot of gaps get filled by Wilt Chamberlain doesn't mean he's going to fill all gaps.
It is true.
Yeah. He's not a lot of
I
women's
think
type,
I think you guys should just be satisfied of filling these two gaps right here, right? Don't worry about the gaps down below, because they go down all the way down to like $6, and I don't think so, right? Unless Tesla goes bankrupt, then it's not going to fill every single gap. So with that said, go ahead and show your Fintech, and then I think.
I mean, with that said, I probably want Mrs. Ket to not be anywhere near Wilt Chamberlain, but like I can't, I just can't say that things are guaranteed to get filled, because a lot of people are saying, I've heard so many times with Palantir on the way up, like so many people are like just talking nonstop about gaps being filled for like Palantir, and most of them just end up not getting filled. Maybe they end up getting filled in the next like 2, 3, 4 years if they go into zero. Who knows? I mean, I don't know, but eventually all things go zero. Eventually all gaps get filled. So, but it may not be in our lifetime. Anyway, how can you be bearish on the market if SOFI is forming a very nice higher low here? right?
And a flip of resistance to support. Yeah.
Yeah, at the 0.5 log fib, if you put the Ichimoku, it's getting to a pretty important zone over here. It did break down underneath the base over here, and the immature Ichimoku monthly, which we call lead span A here, it is holding it relatively okay so far. So far, it's only been maybe 2 weeks or a week and a half, 2 weeks into the month, and the volume is not quite there yet. But the entire downtrend over here, the volume is not really that supportive, of it just being like a bear market to continue on. Same thing over here. Whenever you have like a downtrend over here on declining volume, all it takes just from volume for it to pump up. So when I see something like that, when SoFi is still looking pretty bullish overall, and when SoFi is still far away from the 20-month moving average, and this is still very much of a bull trend of higher highs and higher lows that has developed over the last year, I still have a hard time believing like the market is like the recession is going to come and the market's going to go down. There's a stock out there called Affirm, and for a very long time, everybody just think that Affirm is like a trash stock, right? Why do they think Affirm's a trash stock? Is it because Wilt Chamberlain slept with it? Well, I mean, that would be very offensive to 20,000 women. But I think that people think it's a trash stock because it went from like 170s all the way down to like the single digits. That's why people call it a trash stock, right? When in reality, I think this is just a very economic and liquidity sensitive stock. And it has clearly flipped from a bear trend here to a bull trend for 2 years now. Really for like 2 years now. And we are still in the middle of a bull trend being developed over here, right? The 20-month moving average is still going up here. You look at Ichimoku, all it's doing right now is just trying to break into the monthly cloud that has yet to really form, and finally is starting kind of form over here, a little bit immature. I'm not going to say anything else about that. But it's coming back down, back to the baseline. This is not bearish, right? All this downtrend over here is happening on like no volume here at all. Last time I see a downtrend over here with no volume, all it takes just like 4 months for you to pump up a lot higher from like the 20s all the way to like the 70s, right? So I'm seeing something that's just been going, are we going into a recession? That doesn't make sense, right? Look at Shopify. What is Shopify doing? Higher highs, higher lows, broke through the cloud here very strongly in November. I was eyeing the top of the cloud here as a backtest zone for a very long time. It was like, Shopify is looking strong, but I don't know what the catalyst is going to be before it comes back down and touch the top of the cloud here. Well, apparently it's Canadian tariffs. So there you have it. But does it look bearish to you, the Great Mattsby? Does it look bearish to you? I think
it's so bearish that it's bullish. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I can't really be that bearish on it. Even Robinhood, it just went way out above, right? And it simply is just way overextended. Like, look at the wick over there, way above the tank in the kitchen down here, or conversion base around like the 30s and 40s, right? What did it do after that? Well, back test down here, right? The month is still early. Maybe we have another one of these wick over here like we did back in August of last year. That was also necessary, by the way, because it was way above the conversion base. That was absolutely necessary before you're able to grab the liquidity down here, make sure people don't over leverage, and then you can take off without them, right? I wonder if the same thing's happening over here, where you're just a little bit way too far overextended. It's just simply needed to come back and back test that area. If you look at the Bollinger Band, oh man, this looks like a very bullish stock. You do have a little bit of like a curling up at the lower Bollinger Band here, but it's still very, very fully extended. And the month, you still have another like 2.5 weeks of trading to go. The month is still early. Are we going to worry about this big giant bearish engulfing candle here? Yeah, a little bit, but let's hopefully it's just a wick here. If it turns out to be a bearish engulfing candle to close the month, then I really would be worried. But guess what? I bought down here, so I don't really care. Sometimes you have to kind of take a little bit of a risk in terms of what you think is going to move. Nobody can really truly like time to talk completely, unless if you're like an excellent trader, which like 99% of folks try to trade are not. So I think that this may not necessarily a breakdown. This might be one of those liquidity grab kind of thing here. But even looking at this is still a higher low, right? So I just can't be that bearish on the overall market if I look at these economically sensitive stocks. that's another thesis that I have. So
Yeah, I agree completely. So these are all the mixed signals that we're dealing with the markets. Like we got the SPY, QQQ, the MAG 6 breaking down, and then we got stuff like this. So, and we got crypto holding supports, and we got just want to switch over to Bitcoin right here. And just before you do that, we got Bitcoin going back to resistance here too. So I'm like, this is a clear breakdown of previous support flip to resistance right now for Bitcoin. So 83,558 is that resistance, and it can't break above right now. So does that mean it's going to roll over too? I don't know. Like we'll see. But 79,400, that's a really important level. So we'll see if that continues to hold on the 2-week chart right there. I can just put up that 2-week chart again. Right, the 79,467, very important level to hold. So perhaps it just needs to stabilize around there before breaking back above. But yeah, this whole market, a lot of mixed signals. But I'm leaning more to things will be okay than things are going to fall apart.
yes, I think Bitcoin is a good signal. I think Fintech's a good signal. I think the fact that Bitcoin dominance hasn't really dropped yet is still a good signal. I think that China is still showing strength is actually a good signal. Um, I don't know what else to say. I think if you just look at Nasdaq or look at the QQQ, look at the S&P 500 in isolation, there's some signs there to be worried from like the technical standpoint. But that also is happening with like max fear in terms of sentiment too. So that actually gets me a little bit more leaning bullish because of that. Maybe I'm a fool for doing that, but there's just a lot of things that are just not lining up here. So
No, I get that completely. You know what? Actually, you know what makes me really bullish? Cat.
Let me see. Doge, is that what it is, or no? It's
You know what
exactly
makes
what
me
it is.
really bullish? I'm gonna just share a screen right here, and it's this right here. Look at all that. Look at all those ETFs that are filed. 17 of them. And do you see that those 3 little words right there? 3 little letters, X and a R, and followed by a P right there.
Yeah, I see that. We
Yeah,
can also see your messages, by the way. So let's minimize that.
yeah. All right. Yeah,
Well, maybe not. XRP. Oh no,
yeah.
they started. You know, last time what happened when they started Ethereum ETF, like it just kind of plummeted plummeted Ethereum completely, right? So, no, I'm just I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody was asking about COLV, Clover Health. This is one of like those SPAC, back in 2022. Somebody like basically it's just forming higher highs and higher lows, and it's holding the conversion baseline over here. It's got like a 10 in here. It looks like it wants to go up to the cloud here. It looks like the correction over here going sideways is feeling like no volume. There are a lot of like really small cap stocks that look kind of like this, and they look kind of strong actually. So I don't know if I can buy into the whole narrative of like something bad is happening, um, especially when Doge just kind of plummet all the way down, touched the top Ichimoku cloud here almost perfectly on the weekly, and it's been plummeting down on no volume at all on Binance and Coinbase. There's like no volume here, kind of like how it did last time, where it touched the bottom of the cloud here perfectly. Can it go down further? Yeah, it can. I mean, I totally prepare if it goes down to like 13 or 12 cents. I can, might as well, right? I mean, you're gonna plummet something down on like no volume, so I just do it. I don't care, I do care, but you're gonna do it. I can't do anything about it except for buying more. But this is still a higher low over here on like declining volume. So there's just a lot of things I'm just looking at. Like, it doesn't really make a lot of sense for me to be that skeptical in the market. Even Coinbase touching the bottom of the cloud over here, can it go down further? Yeah, I can. It did over here. I mean, I can't ever tell you that it's going to be like the bottom, right? But like it's holding the a lot of these like key support here pretty decently. Even it's holding the 0.382 over here on the log fib here perfectly. Even holding my GAN ARK over here perfectly, right? So it's just a lot of things I'm kind of seeing. I'm just like, hey, can it go down further? Yeah, it can. I mean, I don't know. Can it go down to 150s, 160s? Can it break down and form a lower low like Ethereum did? It can, I suppose. But I just think that they're really trying something here over the last few weeks that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. And I think overall, the whole Coinbase chart actually just looked like the others chart, to be completely honest with you. Where if you are like, it's holding the 20-month moving average here perfectly. If you're looking at the, if you're looking at the Ishimoku, the Tenkan, and the Kijun over here, it did break down over here a little bit, but so what? So did it over here, right? And so did over here. It broke down there a little bit, but this is still a stepwise approach kind of thing before it goes up. It kind of looks like a chart for total 3, actually. It kind of looks very similar to that.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think it's still a reflection of like the altcoin market, more or less. Anyway, yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, you can just close out with your XRP, and I think we can maybe end the show. What do you think?
I mean, XRP is just still range bound, so it's nothing exciting. I don't need to. There is a question about TSLA. How long can you hold it? I mean, you can hold 2x leverage as long as it's a bullish structure. It has potential to be fine, right, in the long run. So you can hold them for years if you wanted to. I mean, Cat is proof of that. He has held them for years, and they're not going to go to 0 because they are daily balanced, right? They're 2x on a daily basis, not 2x on a weekly or monthly basis. So every day it's 2x, right? So with that said, it can never go to 0 unless the underlying security goes to 0. But yeah, you can hold it for forever if you wanted to, as long as there's still some bullish hope for the leveraged ETF.
Yeah, no, I mean, I wouldn't hold I wouldn't hold every single like double leverage or triple leverage stuff. I'd be like a little bit more selective about it if you want to hold for a little bit long term, because honestly, like I don't know if we're just lucky or banks just can't fail, because TQQQ has just gone from like 30 something cents all the way up to like $90, with a span of like 10 years. So if you can handle the volatility where it goes from like $28 all the way down to 7, or you can handle the volatility from like $18 all the way down to like 7, or you can handle volatility even if things just kind of going sideways over here. TV went for like $5 over to like $2.50 when the market just kind of goes sideways over here. So you can handle that volatility. It's not a bad thing. Even looking at TQQQ is like making higher low here. It's just kind of getting close to the baseline over here. Like the structure is actually not that broken. So I've been holding since like the low 20s over here. It went down to the teens. I think I kept adding a little bit over here too, and a little bit over here too. And I've just been holding. Like I might be selling out of TQQQ, to be honest with you. I don't know yet. I'm still deciding, but overall, I'm not really seeing the structure really being completely broken. I think it's just doing what it needs to do. Matter of fact, I already had that done here. Matter of fact, I mean, it did break down underneath my 0.786 over here. It did break down my linear here in 0.618.
Sell.
I might sell it.
Yeah.
Like I think, yeah, it did break down my 20-month moving average, but I think maybe I'm gonna wait for the bearish backtest if it turns out to be a bear market. I still think that I still think Nasdaq's gonna do just fine. It might underperform, but I think Nasdaq's probably still gonna do just fine. So. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. I think it's okay to hold as long as you're directionally correct. I mean, I think it would have been absolutely terrible if you end up, holding throughout the entire time up here from the peak down. That would have been horrible. But you made it all back anyway after 2 years.
Yeah, and especially if you dollar cost average on the way down and lower your costs, like you would make it back sooner, right? So
Yeah.
that is.
I think TSLA is just extremely volatile. Like it's hard, even if you're like, okay, yeah, it's at the lower part of the range right now.
Yeah, it looks like there it is. That's kind of a floor right there, and it did make a high from back in 2000 and when did it open? 2022 or something.
2022, yeah, always 2022.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing, right? Would you buy when things are like all the way up here above the upper Bollinger Band? Like, heck no, you shouldn't buy this wick up here. That's silly. That's bad. Bad kitty.
Yeah, in the 40s.
But we should start to maybe scale in a little bit, like the 20-month moving average when things are in the teens, maybe, I think that could be a good area maybe to enter. Can things plummet and break through underneath of that? Yeah, it can. It's a double leverage on a very, very volatile stock. Be ready to lose like 50 or 60% of your money. But if you still think that the overall trend for stock is still making higher highs and higher lows, then maybe scale it a little bit more. I mean, none of this is financial advice. It's hitting the bottom of this range up here, actually. If you just look at that. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't really like to buy TSLL just because I like to, I think like I'm okay. I'm bullish enough on the regular Tesla, and it's volatile enough for
And
me to
Connell
look
is
at.
your girl of choice, right? Yeah.
Yeah, like Cornell, at least I can see even looking at the double leverage, you can still see for the most part, this is like wave one, this is wave two, if you want to go into the whole wave thing. But you can still see that overall, if you would have bought Cornell like at the bottom down here around $4, it went up to 80. So it goes down to like 17, $18. So what? Like my cost average is probably somewhere around like 30 right now because I've been buying down here. I've been kind of trying to average down over here as well. My cost average is probably somewhere over here. But I still see it doing pretty well. Like you look at the sell volume over here, it's like significantly declined. So whenever it goes down further on declining volume, I'm happy about it. So it doesn't really matter to me. I just need more funds to go into the broker that I can actually buy Coinel with. But yeah, so be it. I'm not suggesting you should buy, but even that, you just look at this chart here, it's just backtesting horizontal zone breakout again. So anyway, if you think that the bull market is going to keep going on, you believe in altcoins, you think that coin is undervalued, you think that there's going to be a big giant impulse up for like 6 months to a year, kind of like that, then if you want to add a little bit of leverage, great. If you think that it's just going to keep going sideways or keep going down, then get out of it. I mean, it's just like any other financial instruments. I just happen to be bullish enough on Coinbase and altcoin market to think that this structure over here is a big giant cup and a handle, for me to add some leverage to it. I'm not all Coinel. I'm probably around like 3 to 1 coin to Coinel right now because that's my risk tolerance. So if it decides to break down and go further, then I don't lose my pants. So that's kind of my 2 cents. So.
Yeah, I'm all about the leverage stuff too. I like the Connell. I've been doing TSLO on the way down too, but yeah, I still have a lot more Tesla position than I do TSLO anyway, so it doesn't really bother me. But a lot of people, they can't handle that, even Tesla volatility, let alone TSLO. So it is an acquired taste, and I still like them both. Yeah. To each their own.
Yeah. So like, I mean, should you sleep with Wilt Chamberlain because a lot of women sleep with Wilt Chamberlain? No, like you make your own decision, right? I mean, like who knows? Maybe some people might like them a little bit. Anyway, I'm just gonna stop right there because there's to each their own. Like I'm not giving you any sexual advice, so I'm not giving you any financial advice. So, yeah.
Yeah, we talk about things that we see in the markets, and people sometimes they get angry about that. But everybody, if you're trying to be 100% in this game, then you're a liar because that's basically impossible. Because we are not in control of the prices. Like, why did it go down? Well, it's not my fault. I'm sorry. I could not control it.
I'm sorry that you're sorry. I'm sorry
well,
that
I'm
I'm
sorry
sorry
you're
too.
sorry.
No, I'm sorry you're. Well, we can literally keep going like that all night. But
well, I'm sorry you're sorry that I'm sorry that you're sorry.
well, sorry that everybody's hearing this say to each other. Anyway, but yeah, what do you? Yeah, I don't have anything else to add. I mean, I can talk about the miners, but they've been basically doing nothing. I think just waiting for Bitcoin and for IWM to turn around. If they ever do that, who knows? But it's a great mystery. But I think that the whole like gray market drop over the last few weeks, I suspect if I had to put money on it, which I do, it's probably going to be like an impulse going back up. And I think it should repair itself. If it doesn't do that, I'm going to keep monitoring for some warning signs, and so are you. I think we have a few people, and Danny's also monitoring the warning signs too. So a few folks that we know we're watching things, and yeah.
But I mean, if we rally the month hard, then this could be deja vu from March 2020, right? It really could.
Yeah,
so it could just be a launch pad for a lot of things. So let's be optimistic, but prepare for some pain as well, right? You can't just think everything's going to be sunshine, rainbows, and unicorns, right? You got to prepare for the worst sometimes. And right now, things do look scary, right? Even with the QQQ and SPY, they do look scary, right? They look like they could continue to roll over. Even NVIDIA looks like it could continue to roll over, right? But we need to be diligent and not be panicky because the month is still young.
Yes, the month is still young, and it could end up reversing. I actually, yeah, it's kind of interesting. This downtrend over here is there's not much volume over here either. So I wonder whether or not whatever's going behind the scenes is a little bit fishy, because you can see like the downtrend over here is on a lot of volume, you know.
Yeah.
But on the downtrend over here is actually not much volume, so that does make me wonder what's going on. Downtrend over here, pretty strong volume over here, you know. So it does make me wonder, what the heck is going on here? Anyway, but yeah,
that make you go home. But there's still like 2/3 of the month left, almost, right?
Yeah, so it could end up plummeting all the way down and on like huge volume.
And, volume could pick up a lot and then just tank.
That is true. So I think there are a few things, but usually when things tank, they don't just tank, you know, on one slot, except for sometimes during like the whole tariff scare. I guess it did tank from like $7 to like $3 in a hurry, you know. But usually, if you even look at a lower time frame, yeah, it did kind of tank that straight line that one time, right? But for some like really scary bear market, usually it gives you some chances to exit, you know.
Yeah.
Usually it gives you a little bit like a high over here that's like a lower high, and that usually gives you a little bit of a better chance to kind of exit out of there. So, you know, anyway, I think we're just kind of dragging on and on. I keep talking about Wilt Chamberlain. So,
well, we could end the show with like the South Park and the BP oil spill. Like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't know if you saw that episode, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I was. I remember that, but
and like he's lying on a bearskin rug, like looking up at you. Oh, I'm sorry.
You do a better job at imitation than I do.
Not really. You do a great Elon Musk.
I just talk. He just happened to sound like me. Like whatever. Yeah. Well, yeah. I guess we can say one more thing about the Chinese market.
Oh, sure.
你觉得那个中国的市场怎么样？
太棒了！
你真的觉得吗？我觉得它就是超于那个 Ichimoku Cloud，现在就是在 Ichimoku Cloud 上面。可是那个问题了，我觉得最大一个问题是
，no， 没有问题啊，特别好，
有问题，它的问题是
你闭嘴啊，闭嘴
，0.618呀。所以它可能会就在这儿，然后就我不知道它会多长时间在这儿，然后可能会出去，然后去那个0.786，有可能。你觉得怎么样？
我觉得可以啊，
我建议
都可以。
行。有人问我 Neil， 你觉得 Neil 怎么样？其实我觉得 Neil 有一点危险，因为 Neil 还在那个 conversion line 下面，还在那个0.618下面。我觉得 Neil 很有可能有问题。Neil 还有另外一个问题就是那个20那个月那条线，它是往下降下去的。你看，我有一点觉得我一直都说有可能从4块钱去差不多6块钱，很多人可能会很喜欢 Neil， 然后买很多 Neil， 可是一到差不多6块钱的时候，可能它会下降，因为就是一个很大一个 resistance 在这儿，所以
也太危险了，我不能，
有可能它可以上去，有可能它可以就是说我不管，我就上去那个0.786，有可能去那儿，可是我不太确定，我觉得有点危险。Anyway, guys,
yeah,
you don't talk about Chinese stocks. You gotta speak Chinese. So
yeah, if you guys don't know, you have to learn like I did. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah, and he learned from me. Actually, no, not really. All right, let's end the show. That was fun.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, okay. We almost hit 1 hour and a half. Perfect.
Yeah, perfect. Let's do it.
All right, guys. Well, see you on the flip side, and stay safe. Stay, stuff like that. And we're sorry.
We're sorry. Anyway, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh, fun times. Oh, one more thing too.
One more. Always one more. Yes.
Always one more. Yeah, you think it's you broke down underneath the angle over here, huh? That sucks.
And the horizontal level too.
And the
Like,
horizontal
come on,
level, yeah.
that's resistance right there. It's support flipped resistance, and this is making me scared. So scared.
How scared. Yeah. Anyway, that sucks. But anyway, yeah. All right, guys. You guys have a good one. Take care. Bye.
All right. Bye.